Hi everybody, it's Leslie McGill, the Saddle Doctor. Today for Knowledge November, we're going to start a new trend. We are going to call it Safety November, okay? So you've heard of checking your fire alarms in your houses once a year. We are now going to check our saddles at least once a year. So if you're not getting it checked by your saddle fitter and you just want to do a basic safety check, then this is how we do it. And I do recommend everybody do this saddle once a year at least, okay? Inside of most saddles, there will be either a wooden steel tree, a synthetic tree of some sort, and they can break and they can twist and they can have safety issues with stitching and things like that. So what we want to do is a very basic safety check here. If you come across something that is a little questionable, that's when you'd want to ask me or ask another saddle fitter to check your saddle out, okay? This is what's a tree. This is a wooden steel tree. And as you can see, there's lots of rivets. Rivets around the cantle, rivets on the spring steel. The most common problem in saddles are these rivets on the head plate, okay? This is called a head plate. Now, all of these rivets, these are the heads of the rivets, and they go through to the other side, okay? They are holding on the head plate, which is kind of like a sleeve. You can see this is metal here, and it kind of slides on there and holds all the layers of wood, the laminated wood together, okay? So it's these rivets here that generally when they come loose or pop will start squeaking. Can also happen with your strip bar rivets. As you can see here, this is all that holds your bar on. 2 rivets here, 1 on the top. Depending on how well the saddle is made, these can break. Your strip bar is held on to the steel here and the steel here. So you do have extra reinforcement. But again, if you've ever had your strip bar caught on a gate or something when you've gone through with your strip leather, then that's something you want to check too. So when we're checking saddles for squeaking, and why is it squeaking? So simple things can be, if a rivet gets a little bit loose, it's metal on metal, and that will cause a squeak. And that's not necessarily meaning your saddle's compromised in any way, it's just a squeak. Now movement leads to breaking. So if it starts off with a squeak, and then the squeak stops, and then you start thinking, now it's making a crunchy noise, or it's silent, but you've noticed that your saddle's getting wider slowly. Once one of these rivet heads pop off, now you have extra movement. Now the front is, every time you rise, every time you jump, every time you do that, you're putting a lot of strain on the head plates, okay? So starts off with a squeak, the rivet loosens up, the hole loosens up, you got metal and wood, squeak, 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 and then it stops, okay? Now, sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it leads to more. Now, you might hear a crack one day, or a crunch, or something, and you'll think, oh my gosh, my saddle's a little low in the front, like it's gotten wide on you. That can happen because this will start to stretch out. Once those rivets are compromised, the head plate will start to stretch out. And once that starts to stretch out, it puts a lot of strain, usually in the front here, or just to the left, or just to the right, okay? So as you're riding along, again, the front of the saddle takes most of the weight and the pressure from us and the horse's shoulders moving in and out of here. So now this cracks. Now you may or may not hear anything after that initial crack, but what you'll notice is the saddle keeps getting lower. You get on, you're riding for a few minutes, and now your head plate's really close to their withers. That can be a sign, okay? Or you're falling off to one side, and because one wing is coming out. So this is what we're going to be checking tree-wise, okay? Now, when I'm putting the saddle, this is really good for you guys to understand what's inside here, because you're not going to take your saddle apart. But I always put it just there, woman, just right above your bra strap there. And I put my 2 hands on where the outside edge of the tree would be, okay? And you're going to try to pull that apart using your sternum as the pressure point. There should be no movement. Movement is bad, okay? This should be rigid as all heck. If I'm pulling it apart and it's that's a problem, okay? So let's do it on a real saddle. So here we have a real saddle. So again, can't see the tree here, but we know what's in here. So I'm going to put that against my sternum, put my hands where I think the edge of the trees are, and pull it open and shut. Now, you got to be careful with movement that it's not just you squishing the flocking, okay? So you got to kind of watch in there and see if there's any movement. It looks like there's movements on the video, but you'll feel movement if there's movement, okay? The next thing we want to check, if that seems solid and all the rest of it, is for any sort of twisting in the tree or other forms of squeaking. So now we're putting the cantle just below our breast line there, and we take the front of the tree, both hands, and we kind of pull it in a diagonal, okay? Go to the other side, pull it in a diagonal. Now, this is a spring tree, and synthetic trees are spring trees as well. There will be a little bit of give now. There'll be some give. That's okay. Don't pull really hard, but hard enough that you can feel a little bit of the flexion and see if there's any squeaking. If you pull and the saddle folds in half, it's broken tree, okay? Because this can break right across here, especially if a horse is ridden on it. If the cantle, you can see the cantle is just a added piece of wood on the back, and then it gets strung with the seat. There's a lot of pressure on it. Your saddle falls, and this feels loose, broken tree, okay? So now we're gonna take our saddle, and the same thing, we put it out like that, hands on one side, and see, there's a little bit of flexion, but it's fine. There's no squeak, there's no noise. This way, a little bit of flexion, feels quite even. I can pull front to back this way, and sometimes you'll see some lines in the seat. That's okay, but if it crunches and bends too much, not okay, right? The next thing you wanna do is check stitching wise. So on your stirrup leathers, oh my gosh, on your girth billets here, the stitching should be good on both sides, okay? Should not be able to pull these two apart. You should not see that the stitching is worn out, okay? You want to check those ones here. Same with the actual billet. If it's super stretched out and thin or cracked across where the holes are, those are weak points, get them replaced, okay? We have more than one because if you're riding and the billet stitching breaks or the leather breaks, you have another girth billet. So it's not death, it's just you got to get onto it. So here, if you look at this leather, you can see that hole's got a little bit of a crack in it. That's now a weak point. So this would be a billet I'd want to replace, okay? Sometimes they punch these holes like ovals, you can see on the bottom. So they can get stretched more and more as you ride, but I don't like it when they crack, okay? Like that. Also, at the back of your saddle here, often you'll get the stitching line here will pop, and it'll be opening. That happens. It's not detrimental. It's not going to affect your riding in the beginning, but as it does, it'll keep moving and moving and moving. So get that stitched up if it's popped. So you want to make sure to maintain your saddle, the stitching, etc. Okay. Same with the front, because on a lot of saddles we pull it apart here when we're opening them up. So if that is opening too much, don't go pulling on it though, because there are staples in here too. But if it's open or it rips from down here up, that's something you want to get fixed as well. If your D-rings pop out, you want to get those fixed. Now to check your stirrup bar, you literally want to reach in there and try to wiggle them and try to push them around. So you can kind of lean on your saddle, get your fingers underneath it and wiggle them, okay? Now again, I'll show you one other part. On our stirrup leathers, another safety issue here is the stitching in here. So if this is starting to peel back, it'll go, okay? So you want to get those fixed if they're starting to get loose. On your girth, if you have elastic on your girth, when the elastic starts to fray, you want to be very careful too, because that can go, okay? Cracks, anywhere where your horse's elbow goes in the girth. Cracks along here, cracks along here. Horse's sweat can be very acidic, and that can actually cause the leather to crack. So if you have cracked leather, anything that's touching the horse should be smooth and soft. Time to replace your girth, okay? You can, in some cases, get the elastic fixed, but sometimes it's cheaper to buy new girths. So what else? Your helmet, check your helmets for safety. Bridles, nose bands, those things obviously aren't safety issues, but reins and cheek pieces, very important that they are safe and the stitching is good. Stretching out leather, if your horse has stepped on his reins and loosened them, you never want to cheapskate on reins, because that is connecting you to your horse. So again, just check those things. If there's stitching issues, get them fixed, okay? So that is Safety November, and that's going to be in your new thing, is to check your saddle for basic that. We will try to have a look at symmetry later on, where we can try to see from the outside how symmetrical a saddle is. It's not easy, and it is by no means factual, but it can help give you an indication. Take care.